Everybody, I made this video yesterday. I talked about my truck. I went for like 35 minutes, realized that's too much for most people if you've seen all my other videos. So this is the down and dirty. 4,500 miles. I've had this thing for almost 3 months and I absolutely love it. I've already done a bunch of reviews. I've done a bunch of YouTube videos about things I've done to the truck, but overall, this has been my everyday truck and I just wanted to give you a quick 3-minute version if you don't want to watch the entire 30 minutes. So getting about 16.2 miles per gallon. I drive on freeways, I drive on trails, I drive on city streets, I drive in traffic, and I'm not going easy on it. I'm almost always in sport mode, but anyway, 16 miles per gallon. You don't buy these trucks for mileage, you buy them for fun, and this thing is a blast. So in the 3 months I've had it, I've had a couple little issues with it. I've had some sync issues every single day almost, where it's not playing the audio, but you just reconnect your phone and it works every time. I had the R button on the steering wheel stop working. I just disconnected the battery for about 2 minutes, reconnected it. It's been working ever since. The drive shafts were a little bit rusty. I painted them, not an issue. And then the driver's seat upholstery is a little bit wavy, but it has not gotten any worse in the past month and a half. And to be honest, I think with the heat and humidity, it's actually getting a little bit better. The drivetrain is phenomenal. I have had zero mechanical issues with this truck at all. I've taken it out on the trails. The more I do on the trails, the harder I'm going on it, and it just handles it so well. I mean, the suspension is so significant and substantial. It is beefy and made to be driven hard off-road. Obviously, this is my everyday truck, so I don't go too crazy with it. I'm not jumping it 3 feet in the air, but I'm definitely going a little more aggressive now than I did the first time I went on the trails. I did some off-road lights. I have upgraded the entire stereo. The stereo was pretty good, but it had potential to be a whole lot better, so I went ahead and updated it. I'll talk about that more in the full part of the video, but I just wanted to let you guys know shortly, if you're in a crunch for time or you don't want to watch more than a couple minutes of a video, 4,500 miles with my Ranger Raptor. I absolutely love it. The shelter green is a perfect color for me. I love it. It hides some of the dirt. I mean, right now it's filthy, and you could probably see some water spots on it, but I just pressure washed off the mud from the trails and it's fantastic. Scratched up the wheels already, got a couple dents and scratches in it. And I just spent the last maybe hour and a half cleaning the inside, so I'll show you that real quick. It was a pigsty in there, but I went ahead and cleaned it up. So it's good as new on the inside. I mean, interior is nice and clean. I used the, what is it, the 303 for all of the dash and everything. I don't have any leather stuff. I'm going to clean the seats later, but that's the wavy upholstery on the driver's seat. Not terrible, but definitely not all that appealing, especially when the passenger seat looks like this. I wish they all did. Rear seat, I mean, it's a mid-sized truck, not tons of room, but definitely enough. That driver's seat is set for me at 6'3". The passenger is maybe an inch forward, and if I get in here, I mean, my knees are almost touching. So, but it's not bad. My head's not touching unless I really try to push it up there, but 6'3", I'm fine back here. I wouldn't want to go on a long trip, but I can definitely make it happen. I ordered a tonneau order. I've got the black roll-up X4S coming. Those are our snacks. We went out and found a rope swing on a river today, and we had fun there. Already scratched up the bed a little bit with my daughter was holding a GoPro with a stick and it was just rubbing up against here. You know, I asked her to hold the camera, so I can't be mad, and I think that'll buff out. It's just little plastic marks in the paint, so I think with some wax and some time I can get all that out of there. But anyway, this is my favorite vehicle that I've owned. I traded an M3 for it. I've had a Gladiator EcoDiesel, I've had Tacomas, I've had Focus RS, Focus ST, a couple different M3s, the one I traded in 4 other ones, and I had the Explorer ST. This thing is hands down my favorite of all of them. I did look at the ZR2, I did look at the Tacoma TRD Pro, but to be honest, for the price, this thing, it's similar in price. It's actually less expensive than the ZR2 Bison, less expensive than the TRD Pro, the new one with the hybrid, and I love this drivetrain. I love the 10-speed transmission. It is so smooth. This thing in sport mode is an absolute blast as it downshifts when you brake into a corner. It revs it back up to like 4,000 RPM. So when you're coming from like 4th or 5th gear, braking into a corner, it revs it up into 3rd gear, helps you slow down a little bit and has you up in that high range. And that's not the Baja mode that's spinning up the turbos. That's just the transmission keeping it in the power band. So anyway, that's it. Absolutely love this truck. It's so fun. It looks awesome. It's not rare by any means, but there's not a ton out there. So it's just fun to have, kind of new to the US. I know they've been around the rest of the country or the rest of the world for a while, but I don't know. It's pretty cool to have one of the first few, and it's so much fun. You get to talk to a lot of people. They ask questions, and I'm super excited about it, so I'm always happy to talk about it. But anyway, that's 5 minutes. That's all I really wanted to tell you guys. If you want to stick around for the rest, I go through all the things I've done and the different videos I've done, but that's really it. So less than 6 minutes, you're out of here unless you want to stick around. Cheers. Today's video is a 4,500 mile update slash review on my 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. I'm here in the United States, so this is a US spec Ranger Raptor, left-hand drive. It's got the 3-liter twin turbo, 405 horsepower motor in it. I love it. So when I bought this, I didn't order it. It was on the lot and I went and got it. I did pay $2,000 over MSRP back in March. It did come with this decal packet. I'm still thinking I might take it off and just order just the Raptor because it's all one thing and I don't want to cut it or anything, but I might still do that. I haven't really decided. I figure I got to do it sooner rather than later so it doesn't like fade into it or something like that. But that's the only thing I would change about the exterior look, other than maybe a leveling kit to get the front end, you know, an inch or two higher than it is right now. But when I bought this, I traded in a 2016 BMW M3. So it's very similar. It was a 3-liter, it was an inline 3-liter twin turbo with bigger turbos. Put out about the same horsepower, a little over 400, but it came on a lot earlier, maybe like 2,000, 2,500 RPM. It was already getting into the power, whereas this thing doesn't really get into the power until you spin it up to like 3,500, 4,000 RPM, but then it does get up and go. This thing has a 10-speed transmission that had an 8-speed. That thing was also 1,500 pounds lighter, a lot lighter, unsprung on the unsprung weight, and then obviously just rear-wheel drive, so it didn't have all the extra drivetrain to turn. And that's a sports car. This is a performance truck, so they're very different to compare. This thing is so much more capable, obviously. You can do so much more in this than you could ever do in a BMW, but you know, it was a fun car to drive, and I was kind of had high expectations. 400 horsepower, 400 horsepower. This thing is going to be the best of all the worlds and replace everything. It is very awesome. I love it. I don't regret the trade at all, but there are times when I'm on twisty, turny roads and I'm like, oh, this would be so much fun in my M3 or my Focus RS or even my old Explorer ST. So, but this is way more fun driving any of those roads than my old EcoDiesel Gladiator or my 2004 TRD off-road Tacoma. So, I mean, I've got a lot of things to compare to. It's not a sports car by any means, but it's definitely more fun to drive as a daily driver than the Jeep Gladiator or the Tacoma TRD off-road. And I also had a TRD Sport. Both of those had the same 4-liter motor. Not all that peppy, very undertuned, but they last forever. So this is just really the jack of all trades. And it's also a master of a few. So you hear that a lot of times, jack of all trades, master of none, or, you know, it does a couple things really well and other things not so well. This does everything pretty darn well and a couple things extremely well. So when you're on dirt roads going plenty fast, it's awesome. When you're on the twisty turnies, you can tell you have like 8 inches of sidewall. You can tell you have, you know, 70 or 80 pounds in each wheel, and then all the drivetrain as you're decelerating in and accelerating out. And the body rolls a little bit. You got a lot. But when you're out on a trail and you're kind of going up and down and jumping, maybe when we were on the trail, we were going maybe 30 miles an hour over some little bumps. And when I looked at the video afterwards, the wheels were getting off the ground. Driving it, it felt good the whole time. And at no point did it feel jarring coming back down. It just felt like I was going up and over stuff. So the suspension is tuned so well. The live shocks are incredible in this thing. And that's why I'm a little worried about getting a leveling kit, because I don't want to put any additional like pre-sprung tension on the suspension as it is by putting a spacer or something like that. So I'm a little curious. I'm hoping someone in the comments can let me know what options there are for a front lift without, you know, changing too much of the way the suspension is. And maybe that's not even something you can do unless you replace all of it. But anyway, I think it would look better if the front was maybe an inch or two higher to even out, because you've got this huge gap here, like maybe 8 or 9 inches, and then the same thing here, like my whole thumb was down here and there. So It's got that rake look to it, which, you know, in old muscle cars, it's cool. In a truck, I think they look good when they're level. So I've had zero buyer's remorse with this truck. Normally when I buy any vehicle, within like for the first couple weeks, everything about it is amazing. And then within a month or two, you're looking at other cars or trucks or SUVs or just other vehicles in general thinking, oh man, that thing has this feature or this much power or this or that. And it's like, oh, it'd be cool if I had that. I don't look at other vehicles thinking, oh, I wish my Ranger Raptor had this or had that. Yeah, it'd be awesome if it had the supercharged 8-liter, or if it had the supercharged V8 that the Raptor R had, but that's just unrealistic. No stock car has that. Yeah, you could probably shoehorn it in there, but I don't have an extra, 40 or 50 grand to make that swap and change the entire driveline to make it work. So right now, I am thrilled with this. I can't think of any vehicle that's in a similar price range that I would be willing to trade this for, and that could do everything this truck can do. So I absolutely love it. On that note, when you do buy a Ford Ranger Raptor from Ford, you get to sign up and go out to Utah and go to the Ranger Raptor Assault School. I was surprised that a lot of people haven't heard of that and the dealers are not telling them about it when they buy it. This has been around for a long time with the full-size Raptor. It's been around for a long time with the Mustang 350 or GT 350s and the GT 500s. When I bought my Explorer ST, I could go out and do the ST Academy. When I bought my Focus ST and my Focus RS, I got to go out and do the Octane Academy. So it's basically you go out to Utah to their Ford Performance Driving School and you drive one of their vehicles. So you can just drive it like you stole it and you get to take it out. You get to jump it. You get to go out on a Baja course. You get to go out on a trail. You get to go through all the different drive modes. You spend an entire day behind the wheel of basically your exact vehicle, but it's not yours. You leave yours in the parking lot or back home when you fly out to Utah and you drive one of theirs. So it's an amazing deal. You go online to rangerraptorassault.com and you can register there. All you got to do is put the VIN of your vehicle, the date you bought it, and the dealership you bought it from. And then they will check with the dealership to make sure that you are who you say you are. And then basically you get a confirmation email within a couple days saying, yes, you're good for these dates. So I will be out there July 9th and 10th. The 9th is like the social dinner and your pre-registration day where you sign up for the insurance or fill out your waivers. And then the next day you show up in the morning and you drive basically the entire day until 4:30. So it's 8-ish until 4-ish. So you got 8 hours of driving and they provide lunch and you go out on some trails. You go out on their Baja course. They had a jump. I'm not sure. Hopefully you still get to do it because I'm really excited. I've taken this thing off some things and gotten maybe an inch of air under the front tires. And I don't think the backs came off at all. But I can't wait to go jump someone else's. And the reason I don't jump this one is because I also have to take it to work. So I can't really afford to break it. Even if I didn't have to take it to work, I don't want to afford to break it. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you know I've done a lot of little things to this truck. I have not touched anything performance-wise or suspension-wise, but I have put some off-road lights on. I have them wired up to the auxiliary switches. I put the amber marker lights up in the grill, so I've taken the grill completely out. I put the load box reinforcement brackets in here, so I took the entire wheel well liner out. I put sound deadening up in the roof and the doors. So that's what it sounds like. That's what a panel without it sounds like. That's with it. So I took the entire headliner out and I show you how to do that. All the bolts you got to take out. You got to take out the A pillar trim, the B pillar trim, the C pillar trim, some stuff across the back. You got to take the entire switch panel for your auxiliary switches and everything behind the rear view mirror out. So there's a lot of little things you got to get out, but it's totally doable. I did it by myself. It would be better with the second person. All that to say is if you're looking to do little stuff like that, I've done a lot of it in my truck. I've tried to post as many videos about it as I can, so I don't want to go through all that now, but you can go back and find those videos. Like if you wanted to put an 8-inch subwoofer in the back of your truck, I did that. I show you how to wire it. I show you how to hook it up, how to run your wire through the firewall, things like that. I put new door speakers in. I put a inline amplifier in the back with a digital sound processor from Kicker. So a lot of little things like that I've already done. I'm super happy with it. The stereo was not bad when I got it by any means, but now that it's getting to be summer, I'm riding around with the windows down. I notice it doesn't get quite as loud as I want it to, or when it does get as loud as I want it to, the clarity starts going downhill. So with the new door speakers, with the 8-inch subwoofer, with that inline amplifier, it is right where I want it to be. If you're happy with it the way it is, then leave it as is. And to be honest, it is a good stereo as is. I would equate it to like the Volkswagen Fender systems that they have. It's better than the Tacoma JBLs that I've had in the past. It is not as good as like the BMW Harman Kardon or the Infinity Bose or some of those. But now I put about $600 into the whole thing. Door speakers were 100 and 100. The subwoofer was 170. The amplifier was 170. All the wiring was less than 50 bucks. So 600 bucks and I did all of it. And then I also put about 150 into all the sound deadening. So that, I guess you can count that as sound system as well. So less than 800 for everything to make it sound the way it does inside. And then with all the videos I've made, I've actually been able to monetize on YouTube, and I've made about 800 bucks. So it's basically paid for itself, which is pretty awesome. I never thought I would get to the point where I'd make more than a couple pennies. So everybody watching these videos, it's awesome. I appreciate it. If you have ideas for videos, please send them to me. I've done a couple based on comments. Just, hey, I want to see this. Okay, let me show you how to do that. Let's see. I've done some 0 to 60 runs. I've done some stuff with 93 octane fuel and 87 octane fuel to show that you do actually get more power with the higher octane. These trucks advance timing if you have higher octane, and it can do a little bit of pre-detonation, or not pre-detonation, but advanced timing without pre-detonation. It will do that and give you that additional power. So if you're running 93 octane, you're going to get a little bit more power out of it. When you put 87 in it, it'll still run just fine. It'll just retard the timing back a little bit so it doesn't pre-det, and you get a little bit less power. So I got maybe 5.3, 5.5 second 0 to 60s with the 93 octane. I was getting 5.7 to 60, 61 with the 87 octane. So about a half second difference. Couldn't really tell seat of the pants driving, but definitely the numbers show. And then I also did a couple 0 to 60s with 800 pounds of mulch in the back just for fun. And it was anywhere from like maybe 7 seconds to 8 seconds. It definitely made a difference. And I was not going super, super hard on it because I didn't want to launch it with all that weight. The 30 to 60 times were a better comparison. And that was maybe like a half second slower. So anyway, not anything you wouldn't expect. More weight, it doesn't go as fast. I'm pretty sure Newton would have told us that. I also have videos of this thing out off-roading on some of the Jeep trails around here, so if you want to see that. But there are way cooler videos of people jumping these things. So for an everyday guy like me who has owned this truck and knows I have to go drive it to work the next day, that's the kind of stuff you're going to see me doing. It's like I put it in 4 low, I lock the differentials, I go up some rocks and stuff, but I'm not hitting these things at 50, 60 miles an hour because I've got my Maserati to go to work in the next day. But anyway, this is capable, and the more I drive it, the harder I go on the trails because it can handle it. The control arms are like crazy beefy. The bottom one is just huge, substantial metal. The lower control arm is like, I'll show it to you in a minute, but it's a big chunk of metal. So it's built for this stuff. I also did videos on how to install all of these off-road lights the way I did it. I did one on taking the grill off and installing a 32-inch aux beam light bar behind the grill so it's hidden away, it's not out in front. It required a little bit of cutting, but I was fine with it. There's nothing structural, it's just some plastic. I also wired up 2 pod lights in the bed of the truck on auxiliary switches 3 and 4 for the daytime running lights and the full-on brights. So I have utilized auxiliary switch 1 for the amber lights and the daytime running lights on the front lights. And then I used auxiliary switch 6 to power the actual high beam parts of the off-road lights. And then 3 and 4 for the same thing back here, the daytime running lights, which is really just a low-level light for camping, and then the full-on high beams if you wanted to light up way behind your truck. So I show you where those wires are, how to wire that stuff up too. And then I've done reviews at 500, 1,000, 2,000 miles. So I've gone over that stuff, like I said. I don't want to go over all that stuff again. So the things that I've done to my truck, I disabled the auto start stop. So in the footwell of the passenger side, there's a clip. You unhook the wire, you basically plug this pigtail in, you plug it into where the wire came out, and then you plug the old wire into that. It's basically in line, it's got a chip. It remembers the last setting when you shut the car off, when you shut the truck off, and then it will re-enable it with that. So if you shut the truck off with auto start stop disabled, it will start back up with auto start stop disabled. You can also just get in and have your My mode, your Raptor button set to sport mode or something else with auto start stop off, and then you just get in and you push that button twice. I thought that was going to be fine, and then I noticed when I take my kids to school, when I go to the grocery store, when I'm doing little short trips, I forget to do that. So I'm glad I did the auto start stop disable. It's going to cost me maybe 1/8 of a gallon per fill up, which is, you know, a couple quarters, versus needing a new starter early or a new battery early or something like that. Yes, I know they engineered it for that, but extra wear and tear, I would rather just pay for that little bit more in gas and not have to worry about the starter getting hit 20 times every time I drive as opposed to just once when I start it up. So the undercarriage of this truck, when I bought it, drive shafts were all rusty. Like I said, I've already taken care of that. I painted them, so they're still looking really good. There's very minimal protection for the transmission and then back. So your gas tank just has a plastic tub under it. Your transmission has a plastic transmission pan, transmission fluid pan. It's lifted up maybe 4 or 5 inches higher than everything else, but it's not protected by anything. So if you high centered on a rock on a trail, it hits your front skid plate, your front bash plate and your skid plate, and then pops up and you come down like your front tires come off something, rock could come up and just pop right into your transmission pan, which would suck out on a trail because, you know, you break a differential or something and you can just put it in 4 high and have the other wheels pulling you along. You mess up your transmission out there and you're stuck. So I'm going to be getting skid plates for the transmission and then probably the rear differential and the gas tank. You already have some protection on the rear suspension, but not on the differential itself. You have plenty up front, so it's not bad. And then these running boards, they look really good. They're great for getting in and out, but I noticed I was hitting a lot of rocks with them when I was driving. They are inside the tires, so it's not like they stick out any further. But when you go over a rock and you come down, these are not rock sliders. They are running boards. So I will probably end up, when I get all those skid plates, I'll get some rock sliders as well. I'm going to get a tonneau cover. I've already talked about the load box brackets. I put them on there so that I could get a tonneau cover and a rooftop tent. In the meantime, I have one of those truck bed tents that just goes in the truck bed, and it's actually really comfortable. I went with the Napier. It's not I didn't order it from Ford, but it's the same company that you can buy through the Ford website if you wanted to, and it works great. For a mattress, I ended up just buying a 8-inch, one of those like mattresses that comes in a box. We got it from Target. It's a full size and it fits almost perfectly. The length is absolutely perfect. The width is 6 inches wider than the wheel well, so it squishes in a little bit, but honestly, you can't tell the difference. It's really good. It's just a pain when you're done. I bought a vacuum bag. We vacuum it down, we roll it up, and then it just sits in the bed. So we need a tonneau cover, but then it kind of defeats the purpose of having a truck bed tent because the tonneau cover is going to take up some space in the front. So it's a big chicken and the egg, or I don't really know what it compares it to. But anyway, that's what we're doing for now. At 1,300 miles, I did the first oil change. So when you buy this truck, it comes with a synthetic blend Motorcraft. It's good oil, but I wanted to switch to full synthetic as early as I could, and I wanted to send the oil off to Blackstone Labs to get it analyzed because I had an issue with my Ford Focus RS where they put the wrong head gasket. They put the head gasket from the 2.3 liter Mustang motor in the 2.3 liter Focus RS, and they have two very different heads. The RS head was built by Cosworth. The head for the Mustang was probably just a Ford Motor Company head. I don't know, but it was not the same. But apparently the head gaskets looked close enough that they did a batch of the wrong head gaskets and sent them out. So I didn't do the oil analyzation, and it ended up being a bigger problem and a bigger fix as opposed to catching it early and having them fix it. So that's why I wanted to do it. But it came back. All they said was you have high levels of copper particulates and high levels of silicone particulates, all to be expected during the break-in phase of an engine. Nothing to worry about. There was no fuel and no coolant in the oil, which is really what I wanted to make sure, what I wanted to hear from them. So all good. When I do my next oil change at 5,000, so in 500 miles, I'll send it again just to kind of see if those levels are coming down. And then by 10,000, I'm hoping just to be, they send you for this 3-liter engine that they have in the Bronco and the Explorer ST and any other vehicles that have this. Blackstone has like a catalog, and they compare the average number based on mileage, and they can tell you where you are on that. So to me, it's $35 to have it analyzed. That includes all the shipping and everything. And I've never done it before. I'm doing it now and I like it. I like to have that data to know that, you know, the engine is doing well and I don't have any issues that can be told from an engine oil analysis. Back seat in this truck. I think it's comfortable. This is a mid-size truck. This is not an F-150. This is not a super crew full size. It is a mid-size. You can drive it into a city and get it into a parking spot. It's tight. This is one of the bigger mid-sizes, but I think it's smaller than my wife's minivan. Maybe not. It's probably about the size of a minivan. But the back seat, I'm 6'3". When I have the driver's side set, I can get in the seat in the back behind the driver's side, and my knees are just about touching. Not terrible. If I put my butt way back, I can get my knees away. But if you sit like you're normally going to sit in the back of a car, your knees touch a little bit. I wouldn't want to sit back there for more than an hour. On the passenger side, you can have the passenger seat up a little bit more. You don't have your feet on the pedals or anything. So if I set the passenger side comfortable for myself at 6'3" and sit in the back, I did that once when my kids were out at the farm riding their horses, and I was able to sit back there working on my computer for an hour and a half, and it was fine, totally comfortable. So if you have 3 full-grown adults, you can have driver, passenger, and then behind the passenger seat, totally comfortable. You could squish one more in the back, but if you have four full-size adults, they're not going to be comfortable in any mid-size truck out there. Well, never say never, but I would not be comfortable with 4 of me in this truck. So there you go. And then the other bummer about the back seat of this is that it's not a 60-40 split. It's all or nothing. So for most people, that's not a big deal. But if you have stuff on one side of the seat and you want to put half of it down, every other truck I've had, the Tacoma, even my Focus RS and Focus ST, the back seat was split. It was a hatchback and you could put part of it down. So it's not a Ford thing. It's a Ford Ranger thing. And I don't know if the F-150 does that or not. I could probably look it up, but I'm not going to. But I know the Colorado has a split seat. The Tacoma has a split seat. So it'd be nice if we could have done that. If you have a car seat that is always strapped in, then you can't lift up the bottom of your seat and get to your storage. You can't pull down your back seat and get to the stuff back there. So just a little bit of an inconvenience. It would have been nice if they could have done that. I think it might have added a couple pounds in brackets and hinges, but for the convenience, I would have been cool with it. But they didn't, so it is what it is. It's not a deal breaker by any means. It's one of those things where, hey, maybe next model year they could fix that and, you know, make it a 60-40 split in the back. Add a sunroof up here. Put the grab handle on the driver's side. Little things like that that make the next model year like, ooh, am I going to get a 24 or 25? Well, the 25 does have this and that, so I'll go with that one. Anyway, those are just little tiny things. Other trucks have them, but other trucks in the midsize don't have the 3-liter V6 with 400 horsepower. So I will trade those little things for this drivetrain every single day of the week. So the couple little issues I've had, and I talked about this before, but I'm going to go over it again. The R button on the steering wheel, super useful. You push it once, it shows you what your My Mode settings are. You push it a second time within a couple seconds, and it actually puts the car into that mode. So you could have it set up with sport mode for the engine. You could have it set for soft steering, Baja exhaust, and then so you can have all these different settings, not just a normal drive setting, because if you put it in sport mode, it goes sport suspension, sport steering, sport mode for the engine. You can adjust all of that stuff and do any this or that. You can have Baja exhaust, you can have sport steering, you could have sport mode, or you could have comfort steering, and set that as your My Mode. And then when you press the button, it'll go into that. And that can also be used to disable your auto start stop. So I like it. But at one point when I was driving this thing, maybe a month and a half ago, that button just stopped working. I tried pressing and holding it. I tried everything. All the other buttons on the steering wheel were working. The volume, the tracks forward and back, the cruise control, those were all still functional. The R button wasn't working. I tried stopping and like turning the car off, keeping it powered down and turning it back on. That didn't fix it. I got online. Some of the Bronco Raptor guys said they had it and they had to disconnect the negative terminal of the battery for about a minute. I did it. I left it disconnected for 2 or 3 minutes, plugged it back in. Everything's worked. It's been working ever since. So that was a one-time thing, and I have not heard of other people having that issue in the Ranger Raptor. But just so you know, it could happen. It's a very simple fix, nothing to go back to the dealer for. Just disconnect your negative of your battery, give it a minute or two, put it back on, and it should be working. The other thing, and this is a regular problem, and this is probably the one thing that drives me nuts the most about this truck, is the Sync 4 system. And I don't think it's a Ranger Raptor thing. I think it is a Ford Sync 4 thing where I would say maybe not at least once a day, but almost every single day. At one point when I get in and start this truck and my phone is hooked up to it and my phone says it's playing my music or my audiobook, and the screen says it is playing my music or my audiobook, and I turn the volume up to 10 or 15 or 20, there is no audio. I can go to maps, I can have it set up a direction. So it's talking, they're definitely communicating back and forth. If I input on the screen, it does it on the phone, but the audio signal's not going. So you got to go in, you got to disconnect your phone and reconnect your phone, and then audio starts coming through. You can also press the track forward button and the volume down button. You hold them for about 5 or 10 seconds and it resets the entire system. I've only had to do that once, and I probably didn't even have to do it. I probably could have just restarted my phone as well, or a couple other things, but it is not a one-off problem. Everybody I talk to that has a Sync 4 system that uses iPhones, and I haven't talked to too many Android users, have that same issue with the Apple CarPlay. And it doesn't matter if your phone is plugged in or just over Bluetooth. It happens, for my phone, it happens all the time. And it happened with my old iPhone 13, and it happens with my new iPhone 15. So just beware. Well, I say any Ford, my Explorer did it, my Focuses did it. So they all had Sync. One was a Sync 2, another was a Sync 3. I think the Explorer was a Sync 3, and this is Sync 4. So they've all had this issue, and that was with all different phones, all iPhones the entire time. But anyway, that's the one thing that drives me crazy about this truck, and it's an easy thing, 5 seconds, disconnect, reconnect, good to go. But come on, it'd be super awesome if it would just work every single time. Adaptive cruise control. I've done individual videos about it. I've talked about it in every review, but I will talk about it again. It is awesome. I love it. So you set it, it has control of the gas and the brakes. So you're in traffic, it's going to come to a complete stop for you. And this is different than my 2020 Explorer in the sense that every time the Explorer came to a complete stop in traffic, it would cut off the adaptive cruise control and you had to press a button to resume it, or you had to hit the gas to resume it. It would hold the brakes for you, but when the car in front of you goes, it wouldn't start going. This one, for the first 30 seconds, when you come to a stop, it says auto resume. And when the car starts moving, your car starts moving. It does not wait more than 30 seconds. Eventually it'll say stopped and then you have to push a button. But that's cool. I mean, the fact that they did fix that or update that is pretty awesome. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it to stop and then I have to press a button. But now it has an auto resume. And you have like the different follow distances, which are great. But if you're in traffic, you really if you're in stop and go traffic, then it's good because it keeps you close enough. There are times when it doesn't do it the way you would do it and you're just going to keep getting cut off. So sometimes you just got to drive your truck. Other times you can just sit back and let it do most of the work for you, and you'll figure out when it's great and when it's not. But I love that. And the lane assist is pretty darn good, pretty useful, but you definitely can't rely on that. It hugs the right side. It's a lane assist. It is not a self-driving truck. In the United States with the Ford app, you can have a scheduled start time. So you go in, it has to be more than 5 minutes in the future, and it has to be on a 5. So like right now, it is, let's see, 1933. So I couldn't set it for 1935. I could set it for 1940 and at 7:40. So at 7:40 p.m. it would start, and it starts like on the dot. When the second hand gets to 60 or 0, the truck starts. It's pretty awesome. So if you wanted to do that for the morning to have it start early, I mean, you could just press the button on your key fob to start it. You could, how else could you have it auto start? I think that's it. You could press the button to auto start it, or you could go into the app and tell it to start. But if you know I'm going to leave at 6 a.m., I want my truck turned on at 5:50 to warm up and defrost or get it cooled down or whatever it is, you could have set start times. And then you can also set how long it's going to stay running, where if you tell it to start up at 4:45 in the afternoon because you're going to be out of work at 5 and you want it to be the AC on and everything, but then you get called into a meeting at 5 o'clock, if you have it set to 15 minutes, it's going to shut back off. So it's not just going to run for an hour if you're stuck in a meeting or something like that. And I am definitely going down a rabbit hole on this one. When I took the headliner down on the inside, I found the 2 bolts. So your gutter rails, you have a bolt at the front and a bolt at the back. You have 0 other hard points. There's no holes, there's no threaded anything in here. It's just the bolt in the front, bolt in the back. So if you want to put a roof rack on, you've got to drop, well, If you want to put a roof rack that doesn't use those pinching brackets that Yamaha and Thule and all those different brands make, which work really well, but I just like the look of it actually being mounted to the gutter rails, and that you're going to have to drop the headliner to get that on there. So if you do it yourself, it's a lot of work. If you're going to pay someone else, expect it to be about a $400 or $500 installation would be my guess, because dropping the headliner is a ton of work. Totally doable. Watch the video, you can see I did it by myself, and I am not a mechanic. I'm just willing to try things. So, and I got it all put back together. I only broke one clip, and when I do put that on, I'm gonna have to replace it. But in the meantime, it's holding. I feel like there's more, but I've gone through everything on my note cards. So I have a couple of videos that I'm gonna show of me driving on the off-roads, of the suspension doing its thing, going through the twisty turnies in the Shenandoahs. But yeah, this truck is great. If you're on the fence between this and a Colorado ZR2, I would say they are both great trucks. They're for pretty similar, but if you're all about rock crawling and you just want to go on the Jeep trails and stuff like that, I personally would still get this because I love the drivetrain, but I think the ZR2 is more capable for that type of stuff. If you got the ZR2 Bison, it comes with 35-inch tires instead of 33-inch tires. It has way more underbody protection. So it has skid plates basically all the way back to the transmission. I don't know about the rear differential, but it is made more for that. So, and if you want to stick in the Ford family, maybe a Bronco Raptor would be better because that's more made for rock crawling. This is more made for going fast. And then the Tacomas, I mean, Tacoma off-road, they're super capable trucks. They've got that hybrid system now, but it's also about $5 or $6 grand more expensive than this. And it's still a 4-cylinder with a hybrid electric. One other thing I really do like about this is how easy it is to change your, not your drive modes, but your 4-wheel drive. So to put it into 4 high, you can be going 50, 60 miles an hour and switch it from 2 high to 4, or 2 high to 4 auto. To go into 4 high, it's actually going to lock the rear differentials and lock out the transfer case. So that might be a little more, I've never tried to do that on the fly, but it does it without having to like be on flat level ground. You could be on a hill in 4 high and you start slipping, you just put your foot on the brake, you stop where you are, put it in neutral, and you could go to 4 low just by switching over to rock crawl from off-road or something like that. And it just switches for you. In my old Tacomas, you had to be on level ground and turn the steering wheel and maybe even creep forward or something in neutral on a slight decline or incline so that all the little gears could mesh up and it could switch in. This thing, you're just at a dead stop. You can put it into 4 low, you can push the button to lock the front differential too, and it does it all at a standstill, and then it tells you, hey, we're locked out, put it back in drive, and you just keep crawling up. The only downside is that's all through the touch screen. I mean, these touchscreens are pretty darn good, and you can always reset it from inside by holding that next track and volume down for 10 seconds and the whole system restarts. But hard buttons would have been nice for that. Same for the seat heater. So when you get in the morning and it's cold outside and you turn your heat seater on, by the time you get on the freeway and you're going 70 miles an hour and your seat is nice and heated up and you're ready to turn it off, you got to take your eyes off the road, look for that button on the screen, make sure you're pressing it to bring up the menu, and then you press it 3 more times to turn it off. So you're hoping you get it in the right spot. You're looking down, you're looking up, you're looking down, you touch it, you're hoping you get it, and it's not a hard button. That's what I'm saying. This is a long explanation of a hard button for the seat warmer. I think would have been nice. That's it. I think I'm done. I've gone way too long on this stuff. So if you're thinking about getting this thing, the only thing you would regret is waiting, in my opinion. You might regret paying more than MSRP, so maybe you're willing to wait. I really wanted it. I got one of the first few on the East Coast, so I was willing to pay that $2,000 over MSRP to get it, and I have absolutely loved it. And my hope is that through a year of doing YouTube videos, I mean, it takes a lot of time to video all the things I do, but I really enjoy it. If that can pay the $2,000 I paid over MSRP, boom, I got this thing on MSRP, and hopefully I helped some people out and gave you guys some entertainment with my terrible editing. Cheers. Like I said, I had those amber lights. I put those in, the 4 lights. They have kits for the 3 above it. It only requires drilling a couple tiny holes in each one of those things. But I bought these and I'm really liking the way they look. I put a 32-inch light bar in there behind the grill, It fits really well. I was able to use the factory bolt holes in there. Only had to do a little bit of modification with the bracket itself by putting a bolt in there to hold it in place, because the mounting holes were maybe a 1/4 inch too wide. So just a tiny bit of a spacer, and it's fit back there behind it. Looks really good. I've got my ditch lights up here on those little pinch brackets that go on the hood. I ordered some hood struts from Australia that are going to tie into the bracket that holds the hood. It's going to have a pneumatic strut here to get rid of the prop rod in the front, and it's also going to come back and be a more stable and secure mount for these lights. So once those come in, I'll take these little pinch clamps off and put them on there, and I'll be done with that. And then my driver's seat upholstery is the same as it was at 2,000 miles. It's still a little wavy. Passenger seat is a tiny bit. My wife and my kids sit over there. The rear seats, I mean, just my kids are like maybe 80 or 100 pounds, not any issues. But this has been like this since day one. Like, I drove it home and it was already doing that. So I talked to Ford about it. Hopefully they'll, hopefully they'll just get back to me one way or the other, say deal with it, or yeah, we'll fix that for you. Rear seat, there's the amount of room you have. Like I said, I use this truck all the time. We went out off-roading a couple days ago, and then we went out to the river, so we got some river shoes in here and straps. Another thing I did is I bought a gymnastics mat, and since it's 4 feet between the wheel wells, one of those 4 folded mats, I set it up on the back, and it's like a little seat for them when they're sitting out there. When we go on the off-road trails, they like to sit in the back. So, I mean, this truck, super fun. I think I'm going to rip these decals off and maybe put just the Raptor, or get a funny sticker that says like TRD bro or something like that and put it on there. Already got some scratches on it. This is all stuff that should buff out. It's from when my daughter was sitting back here. She was holding the GoPro mount down here to get some cool videos, but she was resting it against the truck. So, you know, can't be mad at them. I asked her to hold the thing. I didn't really think much about it. You can get the beadlock capable. Beadlock capable does not mean take this ring off, pop the bead out, put the ring back on in your beadlock. Beadlock capable means take this ring out, go to Ford, buy the $800 kit of rings that have bolts all the way around. So this is missing 2 bolts right here, 2 bolts right there. So when you put the beadlock on, you got bolts all the way around this thing, but it's not street legal. I don't know if you would actually get a ticket for that or not, but you know, it would have been cool if it was actually like a beadlock wheel that you could not have to buy an $800 ring, a set of rings, they're like 200 a piece, I guess, to actually turn it into beadlock wheels. So again, I think they look cool, but it would have been nice if it was just something that when you pay $1,500 more for the beadlock capable wheels, and then you got to pay another $800 to actually make them beadlock wheels. Kind of a bummer. That's it.